Alrighty, friends, we are back with your favorite podcast show of the week. It is Location Weekly. It's episode number 552. We are recording live on January the 18th. Brianna, how's it going?
It's going. It's good. Had a nice long weekend thanks to celebrating one of our, big champions here in the States, Martin Luther King Day yesterday. So um, just getting back into it. It's Tuesday. That feels like a Monday. So good thing is we had a long weekend. Bad thing is you got to pack everything into 4 days, one of those
Yeah.
things. But yeah, things are good. How about you? What's new?
Yeah, it's good. It's we didn't have a holiday here, but yeah, we did get a ton of snow, which is unusual for us here in Toronto. Yeah, a lot. Like we got a couple of feet of snow in the matter of like 10 hours. So it's yeah, people are still digging out and city's still cleaning up, but because it's so weird, it was like green grass still, on Saturday. So I don't know. But anyhow, we're dealing with that, and yeah, other than that, everything's good. I was supposed to be at NRF right now, but obviously with COVID and all of that and travel advisories, I decided not to go. But I know some people are there, and we've been seeing a few announcements come out of there this week. So
Yeah, the snow missed New York. I think a lot of our friends in the South definitely got hit with snow. South Carolina, North Carolina,
Texas.
Atlanta got a dusting enough to, piece together like, 3-inch snowmen from what I see on my social media feed from friends. So yeah, Texas even, huh? It's like
Yeah,
the most places.
yeah, right up. Yeah, I don't know. Everybody got it a little bit, so it's a big storm. Anyways,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's just jump into it. We've got four stories as usual this week: acquisitions, some interesting partnerships. So I'll let Aubriana kick us off.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is an acquisition story, and we covered. I had to go through back through the archives of the episodes. I know we covered Octopus Interactive and episode 410. So that's circa April 2019. And here we are nearly 2 years later, and T-Mobile has made an acquisition of this company. So if you don't remember, this is a ride share focused advertising startup where they convince Uber and Lyft drivers to put these tablets in the back of their car so they can sell the video advertising, digital advertising that riders can use. They can play games, they can watch content, obviously see ads there in as well. And what's interesting here is that we've seen a lot of the telcos be, starting to exit out of this ad tech play. We've seen a lot of acquisitions throughout the years, and then many of them starting to say, hey, there's obviously some bad press here with the has potential of happening where we're selling our consumers data or using that, and and just kind of the backlash there. But T-Mobile is getting further into it. There haven't been any terms of the deal that was shared, but it looks like the 50-ish or so employees that are with Octopus Interactive will be staying and be included in the deal. We saw T-Mobile previously with a push spring deal. But what's interesting is that for anything advertising related, T-Mobile actually doesn't target any iOS. They just have taken that stance that they will not be targeting iOS. Now, I don't know that that means that they don't display ads on iOS or that they just don't use that data for a targeting perspective. But 4 out of every 5 viewers that are in an Uber or Lyft are iOS users. So that's kind of interesting here. But I think that perhaps what they're looking at this more as just a foray into opening up new budgets in the advertising ecosystem for them. This is like an entry into video and digital out of home, potentially even, opening up TV budgets at some point. So I think this is, from a diversification of interests, I think this is a good place for T-Mobile to be getting into. And, there's other sources of data that they can use, obviously, besides their own, in many ways that they could potentially bring in for any of their ad tech, acquisitions and how they want to play that game. So it's interesting. I think this is one to keep an eye on and watch and see how this progresses, right?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. As you pointed out, I think a lot of the mobile operators, the carriers, have kind of experimented over the years. Had limited success, pulled out of this type of space. But it's I think with all the changes in privacy rules and sort of limitations that have been put on the industry. I think the companies that are have survived that or found ways to continue, like an Octopus or others, you know, um, there's sort of ripe for consolidation right now in the market, because I think people are starting to realize, okay, we're not completely abandoning this space. We need to figure out, what is our advertising, tech play here, and obviously programmatic type of advertising, whether it's out of home or mobile or OTP or whatever. I think all of that becomes valuable technology and valuable space right now, and I think brands and advertisers are still always, as always, looking for ways to to engage, right, and find that audience. So I like the deal. I think it's anytime I see a deal like this, I go, okay, well, what's AT&T going to do? What's the competitive moves yet to happen? So I suspect, as we've seen in the past, when somebody launches a geo-targeted SMS service, they all try it, right? And then with this, I suspect that we'll see similar plays from the others, and acquisitions accordingly. So if you're in the space, if you're like an Octopus, this should be a signal for you to start waving the flag for you're up for sale. So. All right, moving on to our second story. So another acquisition here at home in Canada for me. Vendasta has acquired MatchCraft from Advanced Local. Advanced Local, if you don't know them, they're a big publisher of local content, newspapers, websites. They're part of Advanced Publications. They acquired MatchCraft back in 2014. MatchCraft's been around for a long, long time, since 1998. They focus on selling, ad services to SMBs, paid search, et cetera, et cetera. Vendasta is a company that's been providing, local search and advertising solutions to SMBs for a long time, and has kind of taken the approach of sort of being a marketplace, providing many different vendor solutions under sort of one banner, if you will, white labeling some of those solutions, and so on. And so, Vendasta is a Canadian company based here in Saskatoon, Canada. I had the great privilege earlier this year in October. I went out to Saskatoon and spent some time with Brendan King, the CEO, and toured their new office. A great space. They're growing, like gangbusters right now. Raised a bunch of capital. Which obviously they're parlaying into these types of acquisitions. They've been acquiring companies all over the place the last little while. So, I like this deal. I think culturally, the two companies are very similar. It's a good fit together. The plan is to keep the MatchCraft offering, operating as, maintaining that brand equity and the name, as a sort of standalone autonomous company. I think currently, the MatchCraft solutions are sold, as a white label offering anyways. They don't go direct to client. So I think it fits very well that way as well, because that's how a lot of the Vendasta, offerings are delivered. So yeah, it's, if you're in that world of paid media, and paid search and local search optimization and things like that. These are companies that are, big players in our industry, and it's nice to see that some of these guys joining together and finding that fit.
Yeah, not a whole lot. I'd say not a whole lot to add to that, Asif. I mean, I think that it's great when you see so much compatibility between an acquisition or a merger that's happening, and this very much seems to fall into that bucket. So, I'm happy to see that happening, and obviously, we love hearing stories coming from people that you and I have seen like grow throughout the years and kind of been a part of. So, very interesting stuff. So let's go over across the pond to London here, Deliveroo. And this is, if you're not familiar with them, is an online food delivery company. Think of it as Uber Eats, DoorDash type of a deal. And they are, setting out to solve a product marketing challenge, really just to determine product market fit and better understand the pain points of their customers and restaurants that are their customers, right, that use their platform. And so they've decided that in order to do this, they're going to open a restaurant in London. So they are going to open a pizza, I believe it's a pizza parlor. I love that they call it a parlor, a pizza parlor in London. And they are going to manage a restaurant that offers both dine-in service and delivery service. This is, to me, very interesting as a product marketer and trying to determine like what is the fit, what is the exact pain points. I love that they're just really immersing themselves in it and doing this. I'm not sure that the same pain points are going to be exact for every single restaurant, but I think the largest ones that they should be trying to solve, they're going to figure out exactly what those are by taking this approach. So I think this is phenomenal from a research perspective and just like really diving in. Apparently DoorDash had a similar platform program where they had employees do delivery shift or shadowing. So they would go into a restaurant and kind of just like shadow. But I think that really like opening and running everything nuts and bolts is going to give them a better idea also of what a restaurant owner's priorities are going to be. Like what are not only the pain points, but what are the things that they have the time to implement and set up, and how can they be of better service to come in and solve those. So in November, there are just some extra things about Deliveroo and kind of the moves that they're making. They had an agreement with a French frozen food company, Picard Group, to provide these express deliveries in more than 100 cities throughout France. And they're already running about 300 dark kitchens or ghost kitchens where, we've talked about this before, but the idea of having multiple brands, multiple restaurants come in and they can kind of use that kitchen exclusively for delivery. And, it was interesting. There was like a documentary that I was watching with my husband not too long ago about these types of dark kitchens and ghost kitchens. And basically there was a very interesting kind of documentary that went through this one kitchen that just diversified its brand. It was Asian style food, but they had about 30 different menus. All by the same company, right? All under different names, all under different branding, because they each had different things, but they were all cooked in the same place, different price points and everything. It was very interesting to see just like how, these dark and ghost kitchens are, catering to multiple types of people, right? There's lots of different targeting that's out there. And from a branding perspective or kind of figuring out how that fits, I think that's very interesting as well. So, they're doing this already. So I'm sure they're getting some intel from that side as well. And then they also began working on like this fast grocery deliveries, opening a dark store in London with their supermarket partnership with Morrison's chain. So they're making a lot of really interesting moves, I think. And I'm like very keen on the business process and the strategy that they're taking here. So I'm excited to see what comes out of this and what do they actually figure out from, the pain points. And I worked in a restaurant many years all through college, bartended, waited tables. And I think it's something that everybody should be required to do just from a human perspective and learning how to treat people and work ethic. But I think, now the problems for restaurateurs has changed, right? And going through a pandemic and how we deliver food and how we service customers and make things more convenient is evolving very, very quickly. So I really expect to see some big things from these investments that they're making.
I completely agree with you. I love this story. I think anytime you have a business, whatever that business is, the more you can know and learn about the sort of full vertical supply chain and positioning of what gets you to market, right? In this case, we're a delivery company. We want to know what it's like for the restaurants that we're delivering for, and so we're going to go operate in our own restaurant so we can learn the challenges that they face, and maybe go all the way down to the food growers and everything else, and so this whole idea of sort of vertical integration, makes a ton of sense to me, right? And I think increasingly, like you used to see a lot of the sort of the big Coca-Colas and Pepsis and Cargills of the world, decades ago took those approaches of like, hey, we're not just selling you, the stuff in the vending machine, but we want to actually own the chemical company that makes the chemicals that go into our product, and we want to, and kind of take that approach. And I'm not saying that these delivery companies should all also operate restaurant chains, but I'm saying it's important to understand the challenges and understand the impact that that's going to have on your business. And the more you do that, the better you do at operating your own business and find efficiencies that are there. So I'm really encouraged to see Deliveroo doing this, and the fact that they're doing it with the dark grocery stores and other things too, makes a ton of sense to me. So I expect we're going to see more and more companies kind of follow suit here. But I think it's great to see this sort of forward thinking and public sharing of the fact that, hey, we're doing this because we really want to learn. We really want to be a company that's not just taking a huge fee on top of delivering this restaurant's food, but we really want to understand the pain points of the restaurant industry. And figure out where we can find those efficiencies and have a better relationship with our partners and those within our ecosystem. So I quite like it. All right, final story. Coming back over here to the U.S. now. Sally Beauty, which is a very big beauty chain, has decided that they're going to jump into the data analytics business. This is a trend that you and I have been talking about for the last year or so. We've covered CVS and Walgreens and Kroger and several others that have said, look, we're not just retailers anymore. We're data companies as well, and we have a lot of data about how many transactions we're doing and who's shopping in our stores and how often the people are shopping and what they're purchasing and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe there's a way that we can figure out to kind of make that data available to others and monetize that and create that as a revenue stream for us on top of our normal sort of retail goods business. And so Sally Beauty is kind of taken a page out of that book and gone down that path. They've struck a partnership with Nielsen IQ as the exclusive information provider for Sally Beauty. This includes utilization of the Nielsen IQ merchandising solutions, pricing, promotion tools, measurement tools, and according to the report that I was reading, Nielsen IQ is going to measure an additional $2 billion through this partnership of beauty and personal care sales that they weren't measuring before. Obviously that speaks to the size of this industry, just that alone. That this kind of partnership is an additional $2 billion. So I think this is interesting. Sally Beauty is not new to tech partnerships. They've been pretty forward thinking over the years. They've worked with Revionics, which is an AI-based pricing platform, to kind of figure out, performance-based pricing for, their products that they sell in their marketplace. They've, played around with, delivery and other things as well. So, they're constantly innovating. And I think if they can figure out a way to unlock their data and turn that into a revenue stream like some of the others that we've talked about, I think that they'll be sort of well suited and served to do that. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think there's two sides to this. One, I do love that something that I would consider a very old school type of a retailer like Sally Beauty. You know, you walk it, I haven't been into a Sally Beauty in years, but I know that it always was like a little bit stale. You know, it's not like an exciting environment. And a lot of times the shoppers there tend to be actual professionals that have a license that can get that, you know, discount, but they have a good variety of items if you're looking for something that is, you know, of a professional grade that you may not be able to find at CVS or Walmart or Target. So I think it's great that they are starting to look at other ways they can monetize, you know, their data and their assets. I think that's a huge step in the right direction for them. What I do have a little bit of question or concern about is, you know, the partner that they chose with this for Nielsen. I know Nielsen is huge on measurement, but there's been a lot of, you know, especially in, I would say more specifically towards the CTV space, though, you know, with Nielsen losing their MRC accreditation and things of that nature happening, I do question, is that something that's going to follow suit across all of their product offerings? Or is this, you know, specific offering kind of insulated from any criticism there? But I think that I would be surprised if this is an exclusive deal and if there's not additional ways that they could partner and work across the industry here. You know, we talked about, I think it was Catalina with the CPG integration not that long ago, you know, last week or the week before. And so I think we're seeing more and more need for this type of SKU level data and intelligence, but we're also seeing more diversity come in and more inputs. So I think this is just right now, it's like, it is a little bit untamed, if you will, where everybody's kind of trying to figure out how to do their own thing. And perhaps over the next year or two, we'll see more of these brands and retailers streamline that data. So perhaps it's going into one larger source or larger sources so that there's more offerings within one specific place to get that data versus kind of handpicking here and there. But I think this is the beginning of that. And, you know, I think this is also the beginning of Sally Beauty getting into a tech foray. So that's exciting and something to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're not like a small player. I mean, they have 5,000 stores, you know, across the country. It's you know, big footprint, so big opportunity, I think, in terms of, you know, numbers and customer interactions and transaction data and volume. So I think it's interesting, and you know, like I said, like this is a sort of a growing trend that we've been watching for the last little while, right? In terms of these types of retailers getting into, you know, trying to figure out ways to monetize their data. So yeah, we'll follow along. So anyways, so that's our show for this week, everybody. 4 stories there. Thank you for listening and watching. It's been episode number 552 of Location Weekly. Please reach out to us if you have story ideas, feedback. We'd love to hear it. And just thank you. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.